All right, we're back again for another breakdown. This time, Georgia, Texas, big game, 7:30. We get the game day treatment in Austin. Um, then we get the big time crew too, Fowler and Herbstreit, which it didn't turn out so great for us the last time they announced a game that we were playing in. Um, I guess. Well, the storyline coming in is all the Georgia fans that are coming into Austin. I've been seeing all these videos of people calling the Dogs on Delta flights to Austin.
Oh,
Like,
really?
yeah, especially today. So I would expect a good many Georgia fans that show up. It's a destination we haven't been to Austin since '58. So, um, all right, I guess in the last video I teased it. I feel pretty confident as the week keeps going on. I feel more and more confident. Check in on me Tuesday around like 1:30. I'll start to diminish my confidence. But what says you?
Yeah, I'm not nearly as confident as you are. I just have not seen Georgia, play to the standard that we're accustomed to seeing them play. They've got a ton of deficiencies. Texas, are they the real deal? I don't know. I guess we'll find out. But I know this. They got speed on the outside, and given what our secondary looked like, I'm concerned. Their offensive line is good. Their quarterback is good. So I'm not nearly as confident. Can Georgia win? Absolutely, they can win. I just don't think they're. I don't think they're going to. There's a lot of things that have to go right for Georgia, and all the odds are against them. The point spread, first time being an underdog. Probably, I don't know how long it's been, but Kirby kind of likes that, and I'm sure they're playing that as a motivating factor. But I don't see how you can look at them and not say they're an underdog playing at Texas against Texas. And even though I don't think Texas' schedule has been all that difficult, Michigan's a two-loss team. I don't think people would look at them and say that was as big a win for Texas as everybody thought at the beginning of the year. Played Mississippi State, common opponent, and then played OU, Oklahoma. They're not, anything special. So um, I will see. I don't think Texas is as good as everybody thinks they are, but I think they're better than Georgia this year so far, based on what I've seen. So I know the point spreads around 5. That seems about right to me, but that's just me.
So let's talk about this since you already brought it up. So opposing FBS scoring defenses Georgia's faced. Clemson is 50th. Kentucky is ninth. Alabama 41st, same as Auburn. And then Mississippi State, which is the lone outlier here, 117th. Opposing scoring offenses Georgia's played against. Clemson is 12th. Kentucky 114th. Alabama 10th. Auburn 60th. But and also take that with kind of with a grain of salt about Auburn, because if you look at Auburn and you look at how many times they turned the ball over earlier in the season, they're one of the best offenses in the country, minus the turnovers. So take that. And then Mississippi State 71st. Now, here's Texas. Scoring defense, Colorado State 100th. Michigan 56. UTSA 108th. Mississippi State, as we said, 117th. Oklahoma 27th. Opposing scoring offenses, Texas. Colorado 107th. Michigan 102nd. UTSA 105th. ULM 105th. Mississippi State 71st. Oklahoma 96th. And then this is also strength of opponents ratings. So this is offense and defense. This is where you average it out. Strength of opponent on offense is ranked 109th. Texas strength of opponent defense is ranked 87th. The highest that they played was Michigan. That was 39. Georgia's well above that. So look, Texas looks really good, but they haven't played anybody. And if Oklahoma had a semblance of an offense, they probably win that game. to me. That's or make it closer than what the scoreboard indicated. They got a turnover on the first drive, and they did nothing with it. They kicked a field goal. So I just don't. I don't know if we're claiming that Texas's dominant team is the one dominant team in college football. I don't really think so. Now, another thing to kind of keep this in mind, especially when Georgia plays Texas, the talent gap is quite large if you go by the blue chip rating. Georgia's what, number 2 in talent rating? Yeah, number 2 or number 3. Sorry, they're 80. They have 80%. Texas, 72. So there's a big talent gap between these two teams, and depth is is an important factor. Texas also hasn't beaten a top 5 AP team or a top 10 AP team at home since, well, if you take top 10 since the early 2000s, and if you take top 5, not since the 90s. So, and here's the other thing too, and I know people are talking about Austin, and I could be totally wrong here, but I haven't witnessed it in person, but I've seen it on TV several times. That stadium, for as big of a crowd that they have, is not a very intimidating environment.
Yeah, I don't think it's obviously a big stadium, but I don't think it's one of the more intimidating stadiums in the Southeastern Conference. But again, It may be different on Saturday, but
it could be, but I don't think so. And you have Kansas that went in there at night, and Texas was a decent team that year. I think they only lost 2 or 3 games that year. They were coming off when they beat us in the Sugar Bowl in 2019. They lost to Kansas at home. So they're still, and look, they still have Big 12 residue all over them. The secondary for Texas has not been tested. They haven't faced the passing offense that's higher than like the 80th passing offense in the country. They haven't dealt with anyone like that, and they haven't dealt with the amount of talent that Georgia has. Now, to your point, Georgia hasn't put together 4 quarters.
No,
they've been prone to turn over the ball, not execute, sloppiness. But if there's going to be a time when it turns around, now would be the time. Because if it doesn't get corrected now, we're going to be, there's going to be a problem the rest of the year. And according to some sources inside the Butts-Mehre building, some of the best practices the past week and a half in preparation for Texas, team's been pretty focused. They've had good practices. Tate Ratledge is more than likely going to play or try to play from a source, from a very close source to Tate. He's going to try to give it a go. So that's big. Jared Wilson also is going to play. He wasn't even on the report, so that's good.
Munden's out.
Munden's out still, but to me, this is very emblematic of the Tennessee game in 2020, the Notre Dame game in 2017. These type of games, these are the games where Kirby Smart is Kirby Smart. This is why we hired him. This is why we brought him in. And I know we're down on the team because of their performances against really Kentucky, Alabama, Auburn. You could be kind of disappointed. Mississippi State for sure. But this is where Kirby Smart earns his money. This is why he's the highest paid coach in the country. So I feel pretty good. I think the team's receiving his message pretty well so far, from what I've heard. So I feel pretty good.
The thing that it's like all football, but to your point, maybe Texas has not played a defensive front that has as much talent as Georgia, even though I don't think they played. I can tell you the linebackers have not played as well as I anticipated that they would play. They are absorbing blocks and not able to get off of blocks. Eye discipline is poor. Certainly eye discipline in the secondary. But the key to this for me is if we can disrupt and make yours uncomfortable, that's going to be the key to this game. And it's also going to help our defensive backs. We have got, for that reason, I hope Mikael Williams is healthy. I hope Walker is, I'm afraid we're going to have to play Walker more inside, and I would love to see him more outside in this game. And Chaz Chambliss, I love you, buddy, but I would rather you not get that many snaps this week. And Everett and some of these defensive backs, I'm hoping KJ Bolden, some of these younger guys can play out. And I hope Malachi, I'm really surprised. I don't know if he's trying to do too much, but he had one of the worst back-to-back games against Auburn and Mississippi State that I've ever seen him have. So if we can keep it in front of us, meaning the defensive backs can keep it in front of us and tackle and limit the yards after catch. By the way, I don't know how much this plays into any of this, but out of all the major college teams, did you know Texas has the most yards over 10 yards? So that the deep ball and the shots and also yards after catch, that's how they've been making their money on offense this year. And we have got to limit that, or we're going to – can Georgia score with them? Look, if Georgia comes out and doesn't turn the ball over and, gets a quick start, that's the other thing. We cannot wait and think the game starts midway through the second quarter. If we do that, we are not and that's the other thing. Sarkisian, even when he was at Alabama, if he ever gets behind, he's just like Munkin, who I loved, as you know, but he will abandon the run game. And if Quinn Ewers or whatever his name is, if he can get 40 plus attempts, I think Georgia wins this game. That's my prediction.
Well, here's another thing to keep in mind as well. When we complain about Georgia not being a very good tackling team, solo tackles, not gang tackles, but solo tackles, and missing them, somehow there's a metric where people measure that. Texas is worse than Georgia is.
It's pretty bad.
Yeah.
It's gonna be key that we get him down on the ground this week and keep it in front of us, and we affect him. If we can do that, I think Georgia's, if our offense plays clean, we probably can put up more points than any team that Texas. Our two offenses are a lot alike in a lot of ways, if you think about it.
Yes, they're extremely the same. And here's the other thing. Everyone's jerking off Texas's offensive line, and it's good. It's has a lot of senior leadership on it, and there's a lot of guys that have a lot of reps that have been playing. But, I mean, look at who they've played up front. Of course, I think if Georgia with that schedule, I would hope that they would look just as good as Texas has. So, Texas is probably going to score points. I wouldn't be shocked if this game is hovering somewhere in the 30s. But I also wouldn't be shocked if Georgia can put 40-plus points on this team. The defensive line, if you go look at their defensive line, they get beat. They're very susceptible. UTSA, I watched UTSA in Texas. Now, UTSA is not that good. And they were able to move the ball on them, especially the defensive line and their linebackers. So if Tate is going to – he's going to try to give it a go. If he can, and Jared Wilson, I feel really good about our offensive line being able to at least, make the run game respectable in this game. Here's my thing, and I know I've watched enough of Texas to know who they are, but can you name someone on their defense that can just overtake a game? Exactly. Well, that's the point. Texas is the media's darling, and if they had a guy that was playing at a high level that could be a game wrecker, you would know about him. There's not one. They have been playing really good team defense because of the teams that they played against. So I think for Georgia, they're going to be okay. And then go look at who's the defenses that Texas's offense has faced. I read them off to you. They're not really that great. Not a single one. Oklahoma probably has the best defense that they played, and Oklahoma's defense is pretty good, but, they're weighed down by injury. Auburn should have won that game against Oklahoma. They put up over 30 points or close to it. There was like 27 points, right?
I don't know. I can't
Something
remember.
like that. But they almost but point being is, how good is Texas and everyone exclaiming that they're going to be the best and that they're the dominant team? Crown them. It's okay. I mean, you did it with Tennessee. You're going to do it with Texas. It's very similar to this because the media loves Texas. And game day they will all maybe Nick Saban will pick Georgia, but the rest of them will definitely pick Texas. The whole media landscape is going to pick Texas. People are not fond of Georgia, but they haven't put in the criticism's fair. They haven't put together 4 quarters. I think, and I could be wrong, but if Georgia would put together 4 quarters, they would definitely be undefeated right now. If they put together 4 quarters, this would be the best team in college football and could very easily win a national championship, but we just haven't been able to do it yet.
Well, if we don't do it, like you said earlier, if we don't do it this week, we're not going to be able to do it probably all year. And I do think more of the pressure is on Texas, kind of going back. They're playing at home, number one, big time TV, first, big challenge in the SEC, being on top of the mountain. All those things. We'll see how they respond to that. But can Georgia put together 4 quarters of play the type of play the type of game that we've come to kind of expect out of Kirby's teams? They haven't done it thus far, and this week would be a good week to do it. And if they do that, then they got a shot. Certainly got a shot at beating Texas. I just haven't seen any indication that they are going to have the ability to do that. Too many mistakes, man.
Well, here's the other part because I saw it against Washington in the playoff last year, and that was supposed to be Texas' best team, right? They pissed down their legs, and Washington wasn't that good of a football team. I mean, they were had many of times in that season. The teams that they were far better than. So listen to this stat. Kirby Smart in 1-score football games, 19-9. Steve Sarkisian in 1-score at Texas. You want to take a guess in 1-score games?
No, go ahead.
17 for 12, or 7 for 12. I'm sorry.
Well, he's won more than he's lost then.
No, he's 7 for 12. He's won 7 games and lost 12.
And 7-12. I got you.
Yeah, 7-12. Another thing about Steve Sarkisian is he hasn't had a big win. You can't point to a single time in his career where he's had a massive victory over a top-ranked team or one of the top-ranked teams in the country. There hasn't been any. And I know at USC he was there for a year and a half. That was a disaster. But overall, in his entire head coaching career, he hasn't had big wins. The biggest one was whenever he's at Washington and they beat USC, a USC team that was not that overrated. I think this is a big game. It's a big spotlight. Georgia's been in these big spotlight games. I guess you could say the same thing whenever we played Alabama. But, I don't think the spotlight's going to really scare Georgia, especially now after you got that Alabama game out of your system. And, you saw what Georgia was – you saw what they were able to do if they just got over the shell shock. They're okay. So I'm hoping that's the message, because if Georgia comes out flat and they go through another slow start again, they will lose this game. If they get behind 10-0, it's not really, it's not scary. 14-0, not scary. But if they go down 17-0, 21-0, then that's going to be a problem. So
28-0. Oh.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
So, I feel like this is put up or shut up time. Obviously, I think Georgia is still, they can afford another loss and still make the playoffs.
If they lose this one, there's zero wiggle room left.
Yeah, there's no more. But yeah, exactly. So that's what they can afford one more loss, but they should beat Ole Miss. They should beat Tennessee, but again, you can't afford this loss. And it's gonna, or you can't afford it, but it's no more wiggle room. You got no breathing room, and you got to play perfect throughout the rest of the year. And given how this team has played, if they lose this game, I don't think that will happen.
Let me ask you a question, and I thought about it, and I think maybe some people have said it. But, last week when we played Mississippi State, and I do agree with you, we're more Georgia's offense at this stage with Carson Beck is much more of a passing offense than it is a running offense. But do you think we hid some things in the running game and just did not want to give Texas a whole lot of or make them feel good that Georgia can't run the ball? Or, I mean, do you think there's some of that was a plan?
Yeah, I do, and I mean, if you go back and you look, and I know you have, the offensive game plan was pretty vanilla. I mean, there wasn't really a lot to it. There were one or two times where, there was some extra seasoning thrown on there, but there really wasn't much there that you could take away and be like, oh wow, Georgia did something different. It was very basic Georgia offense.
Well, I'm going to tell you, if we come out focusing on Arian Smith, and we have 3 or 4 drop balls right away,
Well,
that's gonna irritate me because can he burn somebody over the top for sure? But
yeah,
being a guy that can move the chains and you throw it sideways to him and let him get up, first of all, we've missed all the blocking. I mean, not all, but we haven't been able to consistently block outside, and that includes wide receivers and tight ends and offensive linemen getting out. We just so those pass plays we run it where we throw it wide to Arian Smith. I would love to see us not run that once. If we want to run it to Evans or somebody else, let's try that. But Arian Smith being a focal point of our offense early, to me, the poor kid doesn't have the hands, and it totally deflates the offense right out of the chute when we do that.
right.
It just does. Yeah. It knocks us off rhythm.
I totally agree. And here's another thing, and I was listening to the college football nerds. They do a really good job, and they went against their computer model. The computer model has Texas winning by 4 points. But again, the model only takes in the stats and not the opponents and who they played. So it's going to be a little skewed. But they had a good point. The one guy did, the little nerdy guy. I like him, but though, if Georgia, especially in this type of game, more than likely they're going to play ball control because they know their defense isn't that great, and Georgia has to be able to control the ball. Well, with the new college football rules and the running clock, irregardless of what happens, if it's a pass or a run, and it's a first down, Georgia should be able to eat a lot of clock. I mean, you saw it at Mississippi State. They did it in the first half. Kind of got away with it in the second half, but then, that death march took up almost 9 minutes.
Right.
You saw it against Auburn. We threw the ball every which way, and we were killing the clock. So, bless you. Bless you again. Don't do it again. So I think in this type of game, I think Georgia's going to try to play keep away, keep them in a low-scoring position, and I think Georgia's going to get out of this thing and escape with a victory. And I don't know. I don't know why I feel so good about it. I guess I'm delusional. I could be. But for some reason, whenever our back's up against the wall and they're talking up the opponent, how great they are, Georgia somehow plays their best game. Not only their best game, but they win, and they win convincingly. So I don't know. I feel pretty good about this, and Kirby's really good in these spots. He has been.
If Georgia wins, of course, we're talking all hypothetical here. How quickly the narrative in college football is going to change from week to week, right? And now everybody's going to say, "Oh, Georgia's turning around," and
yeah.
All this other kind of stuff. So I don't know. I've said it even before this 12 game, before the conferences expanded. To me, in college football, you don't know what you have and what kind of team you have and what other teams are until around the end of October. Halloween, you'll start getting an idea of who the pretenders are versus the real teams.
Yeah.
And I still don't know yet. And it's hard for me to have as much confidence as you do in Georgia based on what I've seen. But then you look across college football, Alabama, I think we broke them in the second half. Their defense sucks. Tennessee, they can't afford, if they lose against Bama, they're out, right?
Yeah.
Ohio State, there's not much wiggle room left for them probably.
No, if they drop another game, they're out.
Yeah, so I just don't know if there's a dominant team in college football, and it looks like it'd be either Oregon or Texas at this point. But then again, that can change in a week's time.
But here's another thing. Oregon, I mean, no one talked about Oregon leading up to that game because Oregon was not a very good team. Well, no, they hadn't put together a full game. It was just a cluster every single game they played. And I think that's kind of what we're seeing with Georgia here. I mean, if Georgia just didn't get down in a hole 28-0 against Alabama, Georgia would have won that game. Or if Carson Beck doesn't throw that pick, I think Georgia wins that game. So, I feel pretty good about this team. I don't think there's a dominant team in college football. And if Georgia does win and they start singing Georgia's praises, don't buy into it because I don't think I don't think any team really is a clear-cut favorite to win the national championship.
I agree. Yeah. Right now, and if Texas beats Georgia, then I'm gonna change and I'm gonna say, yeah, Texas is the dominant.
Yeah, I mean this game does have a who's a fraud and who's a real team here. But Texas can bounce back, and this could be their sole loss, and then we see them in the SEC championship game. So you never know. I'm not going to get too down or up because of the outcome of this game. To me, the big games to the end of the season are going to be Ole Miss and Tennessee. If Georgia can win those games, we're going to be in the playoff, and then we'll see what happens there. So to get worried about this game, I wouldn't. It just doesn't really do you any good. I think you should be more worried about how we respond, win or lose. I'm going to cough. I got strangled. Sorry. Couldn't do anything about that. But, win or lose this game, it doesn't – I mean, it matters, but not really. But the response to this will be much more important than the outcome of this game. So, which I'm pretty sure Kirby has also been saying too. So we'll see what happens. I'm fairly confident. This is just a spot where Georgia with Kirby has always come out over the top. I mean, look at all the times that Georgia's lost outside of Alabama's. There's only one time where Georgia was deemed to be outmanned and outgunned, and they lost. Right?
Outmanned and outgunned, and they lost.
Yeah. Where they were deemed to be the media and the fan base.
What game was that?
2019, the LSU game.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's true, but it was also different players and different team, and I don't know, man.
Totally agree, but this is about the program, and to me, this is the games that Kirby has defined the program on, irregardless of who's in there. So you can take 2019, you can take 2017, 2018, 2020. I mean, these are games that Kirby has built the team on. And so, and for Texas, this would be a huge program shifting.
Yes,
you beat the team.
This would be a statement game.
Yeah, you beat the team that's been on top of college football the past 4 years. So,
we got a good team in the SEC. That's what Texas would be able to say. And all their fans.
Oh, they would jerk off and talk about how great Texas is. And that's fine. That's another thing, too. I hate Texas. And maybe that's why I feel really confident because I hate them. I despise them. I hate everything about them. I hate their band and their stupid gay cowboy outfits. And I hate their cow. And I hate their confidence. They really haven't won anything since the 70s. I really just dislike Texas a ton. But, this could change their program. I doubt it because Georgia's going to win. So,
I hope you're right.
I'm right. Georgia's going to win. All right. Speaking of, well, let's go ahead and do predictions here. Last week, oh boy, wow. You won by default. You picked Georgia to beat Mississippi State 42-17. I picked them to win 45-10. We were both wrong, but you were closer by a touchdown, so you won. So go ahead and you want me to tell you the numbers real quick before you pick?
Sure.
All right. Well, ESPN's got to load up for me. Georgia is currently a 5-point underdog. The total is 56.5, and Georgia's plus 175 money line. So not that big of an underdog.
I would take the over. I think there's going to be more. I know you said it's going to be ball control, and I hope you're right. But I think Texas wins this 41-38.
So we're doing the reverse of the Alabama game. You said 41-38.
Yep.
Texas.
Yeah.
All right. Ugh, disgusting. All right. Well, so I'm going to tell you, and I'll go ahead and do push-ups live on camera.
I cannot wait.
I'll do 100 if Georgia loses. That is
how many days?
Well, it will be a long stream. It'll be a long upload. But I'll do 100 push-ups if Georgia loses this game. I don't see where Georgia loses this game. I've tried. And I just don't see it. I think Georgia's the better team. I think they need to put together 4 quarters, and if they do, they are the better team. I think Georgia wins this 42-31. I think Georgia wins by 10 points. I think we escape. I think it'll be a field goal game throughout, and then Georgia scores the last minute, within the last 5 minutes of the game, they score a touchdown to put this game away. It might be Texas's time, but not yet. I think Georgia wins. I think Georgia obviously covers, but I think they're going to win by 10 in Austin. So,
both of us, if we believe it strongly, we should take the over because it's only 56 points.
Yeah. I think this is going to be high scoring. Look, I know we want to talk up how great Texas is, but Texas's defense last year was not good, and they were like 114th in passing last year. That secondary is just not good, and I watched that secondary all year. There's been guys wide open. They just haven't had a quarterback.
Would you agree? Our wide receiver and tight end, a wide receiver more than tight end because of Lawson Lucky, but Oscar Delp, where have you been? Our wide receivers, we're not as great. We don't have great wide receivers, but we got good wide receivers, but they have underperformed. They've underperformed on catching the ball. They've underperformed by running the wrong routes. They've underperformed by not blocking on the edge. This so far, and I know everybody wants to talk about, Carson Beck's just not where a lot of this, and we said it last time. You can't blame it on Carson Beck, dude. He's gonna. I think he's trying to do a little bit too much because his receivers are not. They're just not playing up to the standard. So,
well, here's the thing. I saw Oklahoma wide receivers. They had their top 5 wide receivers out, and they were running wide ass open, but they don't have a quarterback. So with UTSA, they had wide receivers running wide ass open, and they don't have a quarterback. So, and if you want to compare talent, I would take Dylan Bell and Dom Lovett over any of those guys that I just mentioned.
I totally agree, but they have not performed to the standard that we expect so far. They just haven't.
No, and you're totally right. But again, this is the game where they have to show up. If they don't, we're done. So
That's the other thing.
Maybe that is where my expectations and why I just don't see Texas beating us, because I know this team is capable of so much better if they just go out and they perform and they execute. They should be able to win. And maybe that's where that coming from. But maybe they can't. I don't know. I really don't know yet. And Saturday is going to, at 7:30, is going to show me a lot about what this team is made out of.
And I sure would like to see a lot more Humphreys in this game, because
I think you're going to see a lot more of Humphreys and a lot more of Anthony Evans.
I'd like to see him too. He can't block on the outside, or he hasn't.
Well,
but
shit, no one can. So what the hell difference does it make?
Well, that's true. But yeah, I'm a fan of Humphrey so far. Got to find a way to get him the ball a little bit more. He can be explosive.
So. I agree. Well, all right. Before we wrap up here, you got any thoughts on Auburn, Missouri? Missouri's a 4-point favorite at home.
I think Missouri, they had a bye week last week, right?
So did Auburn.
So
did Auburn.
Yeah, I just think Missouri's a better program. I'm going to pick Missouri to bounce back from that poor showing. So I think they'll cover.
I think Auburn will make it a lot closer, and I think Auburn might still win, but we'll see. Oklahoma and South Carolina. Oklahoma's favored by 1.5 1.5 at home.
I'm going to go with Beamer ball. I'm a believer. South Carolina's defense is for real, man.
Yeah, it depends on what team you get that shows up.
Well, the times I've seen them, South Carolina's, they got a legit defense. I would hate to play South Carolina. I think they may have one of the better defenses in the conference based on what I've seen so far.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'll take South Carolina. Alabama, Tennessee. Alabama is a 3-point favorite on the road in Neyland.
I'm going to, just because I want to see the chaos. I just want to see the chaos. I'm going to pick Tennessee at home, even though that's more of my just wanting to see chaos because I hate both programs. But I want to see her. Paul, he needs to go. They won't even say DeBoer's name if they lose to Tennessee.
No, they won't. I think Alabama probably wins this just because of Jalen Milroe. So I think, though, it might be a 1-point game. So I don't know. I would take Alabama to win. I don't know if they'll cover, though. I really don't. Tennessee's offense has been so bad.
Say, what time is that game?
3:30. It leads into our game.
Okay. All right.
All right. LSU and Arkansas. LSU's a 2-point favorite, 2.5-point favorite in Fayetteville.
I'll take Sam Pittman.
I gotta tell you, I'm impressed by Arkansas. This team could be, 5-1. But I think LSU has finally figured themselves out. So I'll take LSU on the road. Now here's a big game that no one's talking about, and it's big for other reasons. Kentucky versus Florida. Kentucky is a 1.5-point favorite in the Swamp.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'll take Kentucky.
I think Kentucky also wins. I think our boy Sling Blade Billy is going to be gone. He's either. Do they fire him in the bye week before they play us, or do you think he goes one more game and they use the Georgia game as an excuse to fire him?
Probably use the Georgia game as an excuse to fire him. And I wouldn't be surprised if he gets fired that he doesn't end up as an analyst on Georgia's staff.
That'd be great. But yeah, I mean, Florida had every think about that. Me and you on the couch were cheering for Florida.
I felt dirty.
Yeah, it felt disgusting. But again, Sling Blade, they played well enough to win. So that game, not any other game. But Kentucky winning in the Swamp. Oof, boy, that would be bad. All right, well, I got Georgia. I feel pretty confident. I would say there's like a 99.9% chance that Georgia wins.
Wow.
I think you're on the other shot. I really do. I truly do believe that it might be fake. I don't know, but I feel pretty good about it. And I think you're like 99.9% sure that Georgia's going to lose this game. Would you agree?
I don't think it's that high, but I would say I'm 85%. I give us a 15 to 20% chance of winning this game.
That's I think extremely low, especially if you
All
look at
right.
the team. I'm just telling you. All right. Well, we'll be back probably Monday or Tuesday. Do a recap,
Yeah.
regardless of what happens. All right. Well, there'll be one guy sorely disappointed, or there'll be two guys sorely disappointed, and Georgia wins. One guy really ecstatic, and one guy that said he told you so. So remember to like and subscribe, comment. We got a couple more subscribers this week, so I appreciate it. We appreciate it. My baby needs new shoes. So keep subscribing, keep liking videos, comment, tell us why I'm wrong, tell him why he's wrong. I think you should tell him why he's wrong, but whatever. Follow us on socials at Terminus Sports _ATL on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. And then our presenting sponsor, our wonderful presenting sponsor, Unishippers Atlanta. Give us a shout.
Work with small to medium-sized clients on helping them reduce their shipping costs, anything from a letter all the way up to pallet. So if you think your shipping costs are too high going into the fourth quarter, reach out to us and ask for Marcus Gore, and we'll be happy to do a no-obligation cost analysis for you.
All right, give a shout out to Marcus, and we'll see you on the other side.
See ya.